Okay, this is what we're going to be making. It's what I call a candle holder. So I'm going to give you an up-close shot of it so you can see the two-tone dimensions of the colors and the geometry of it. It's really cool looking in person. I'm not sure if the camera really shows everything that it has to offer. So this is my candle holder. And that's what it looks like in the end when it's all done. I've almost completed the one that I'm going to show you today. It's going to be a red and cream one. So the materials you're going to need are a styrofoam cup, that's what this is, and it's about 4 inches tall. I'm not sure the exact size of the styrofoam cup I used, but you're also going to need some cardstock. And now the cardstock that I use 2 different colors. I like the color differences. I like how there's the purple and the white, or the red and the cream. So it's basically, the cardstock that I use is glittered on one side, so this is the cream. So it has glitter on one side, and then on the other side it's just white. And it's important to have the back be a different color than the front. So the same with the the red. And these are going to be the things that we're making. So see how when you fold it, you see the red and the white, and then the red and the cream. So it gives it a lot of really cool aspects. So what else you're going to need is a needle and thread, a glue gun, and about 2 to 3 hot glue sticks, some glitter, whatever color you want, a ribbon, also whatever color you want, and something about 1/2 inch thick that's rounded. The squares you need to cut out 2 inches. These are 2-inch squares. I used my Cricut to cut these, so they came out perfect. I don't know if you're a robot cutter and you can do it yourself, or if you have another tool that will cut out 2-inch squares for you. But if you do, that's fine too. The cardstock is the best material to use. It's sturdy, it's thick, it won't fall apart or tear as you're working with it. So cardstock is the best thing to use. This is a really cheap project to do, and you can give them as gifts if you don't have money for Christmas or birthdays. So it's really inexpensive. You're going to need approximately 26 of these squares. So that's not a lot of cardstock. So that's really cheap. The styrofoam cups are cheap. Glitter's cheap. Glue sticks are cheap. It's all not, you can make so many of these with really little money. The only thing is it takes some time. I think if you're by yourself, it would take approximately like 1.5 hours to 2 hours, just because some of the steps are really tedious. So I'm going to get started in showing you the steps. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is to take all your squares and curve them so it's like this. And that's what I use this for. So I'm just using a glitter bottle. I just wrap my square around and match up the points. You can overlap it. You want to squeeze it really tight so that when you take the bottle out, it stays curved. So that's your first step. I would do that to all 26 squares. Your second step is going to be to poke holes into the corners of the squares where they meet up. So you're going to want to just poke some holes. And it's in the corners where they meet up, so the curved corners. I would do that to all 26 squares as well. And then we move on to the next step, where we would start stringing them. So I would string as many of squares as I could on one line, just to save, the trouble. It just makes it go faster. I only have this one because I've already completed most of these. But usually I would have a long line and then start cutting them off of that. So once you've strung your squares on, you'll want about 4 inches on this side and 4 inches on the other side, and you can cut them. So you want the string to be somewhat long, just so it'll make it easier to tie. So that's a good size. Once you've cut all of your squares and you have them in the strings, you can begin tying. Now this is the part that takes the longest, and if you have help, that would be great, because it takes a long time. It's just a little bit difficult. So the first thing you're going to want to do is tie a first knot. So you tie one knot, and you want to tie it really tight, and then you have to hold it down with your finger so that it doesn't slip, because the first knot is not going to hold. Then you have to make a second knot by using one hand. This is the difficult part. Like, you could give an end to your fingers back there, and then pull on this end. And then if you need it tighter, like you just have to use your one hand to do all the work because this hand can't really move. So the string is a little long, so I'm trying to make it so it'll be tight. You're going to want to be careful. If you feel it slipping underneath your finger, you might want to just let go and start over, because if you once you pull this, it's a done deal. If the gap between the corners are too big, you're going to have to cut it and start over, restring it and everything. So I'm going to pull it and go. All right. So that did pretty good. If you can see, they're meeting up pretty well. That's good enough. You're going to want to tie like 2 more knots in this, and this just makes sure that it's not going to come undone. You know, triple knot it or whatever. I've tried sealing these corners using glue, just plain old hot glue, and I think because of the resistance of the cardstock, it will always separate unless you have like 24 hours to hold it shut. So this is the best way, the most sturdy way. Your project will not come undone. Like once you give it to whoever you're gifting it to, it won't fall apart on them. So even though it's tedious, it's the best way to do it. So after applying pressure on this, it kind of flattens it out. So you're going to want to like push the sides together and plump it up a little bit. So it's like that. You can manipulate the cardstock however you need to when you start gluing it and everything. So just plumping it up a bit. The next step you're going to want to do is cut off this excess string. So you're going to want to cut it as close as you can get it without it untying the knot. So that's good right there. And this is going to be covered, so you don't have to worry that it's not matching up perfectly and that there's a little bit of string. Don't worry. You're going to cover that with hot glue and glitter. So that's basically how we get it to look like that. So the next step we're going to have to do is glue the pieces on. Now I've almost completed this one, so we only need 2 more. And the cool thing about this cardstock is that you can flatten it out if you need to fill in more space, or squeeze them up and then just glue it where it needs to be. So what you're gonna do, I only have 2 more left, so what you're gonna do is apply glue to the back. Make sure your glue gun is working. Apply some glue to the back and stick it next to your other one. Now the cool thing about this project is that there is room for error. It doesn't have to be perfect because there's so much going on. Your eye is just looking at all of the geometry and all the colors that you're going to make mistakes, and you know it's not even going to be that noticeable. So you don't have to stress out too much about perfection. I do kind of want these ones to be a little flat because there's such a big gap here. So I'm going to have to try to fill in that gap, that space. So I'm going to put the next one down and like kind of in the middle so that I can adjust it so it fills in the space. And I know some of you might be thinking, like, what about this middle part? Well, don't worry, we're going to cover it up. This right here, you know, I start off with the first one putting it right above one of the tips, but it's obviously not going to stay matched up because the top part is skinnier than the bottom part, so it's really impossible to do that unless you're just really amazing and you know how to do it, and I don't. So now I'm going to apply some hot glue in between to seal these edges, and that's really going to give it that finished look once the edges are sealed. You want this to be nice and closed because it makes that diamond effect. This one's kind of far, so here's where the manipulation really comes in hand. You're going to want to glue it really good. I messed up right there, but that's okay. And squeeze them together. So that's why it's cool that it can flatten out if it needs to. I kind of have a lot of hot glue right here, and it's making a big old mess. That's not good. I can probably pull that off though once it's dry. That's the cool thing about hot glue. Once it's dried, it can usually peel off pretty easy. So that's sealed right there. And now we need to seal this one. So just kind of apply some hot glue in there and seal it. So hold it hot glue dries pretty fast, so that's cool. Now you're gonna get these things, these hot glue hairs, especially when you're doing the glitter part. So you're gonna want to do a couple and then let it dry, because you don't want to pull off the hot glue hairs too soon, or else it'll mess up what you're working on, because they'll pull the hot glue. I'm gonna try to clean that up a little bit. Just pull it off. Now, if this is like a really special gift that you're giving and you want it to look perfect, you're really going to want to take your time. I did not take my time on this one because I was trying to rush through it, so I have quite a few imperfections, but you know, in the end it's all going to look really good. It doesn't really matter. You know, if someone was like critically looking at it, they could see how it's crooked. The first one I did came out a lot better, but that's okay. This one will still look just good enough for me to give to my sister, because that's what I'm making it for Christmas. Alright, so now the next step, after you have all these pieces glued on, is going to be putting the red glitter dots. So this is going to be the, you know, the piece that just really makes it all look like it comes together. So just put a little dot. I like to do it over my little board because, I don't know, glitter gets everywhere. I don't know if you've ever used glitter before, you know what I mean, because it just gets everywhere. So I like to put it over the board. And then I'll do like 4 or 5 at a time and then dust it off. Try to do it as quickly as possible, because I want you to see the finished product. I think I'm just going to do like 4 of them, and then I'm going to put the ribbon on. So you'll do that to all of the pieces, and then the last thing you're going to do is take your ribbon and wrap it around this part. So that's why it doesn't really matter if if this matches up, because the ribbon's going to conceal it. So I would just take a starting point and hot glue it down. So I would just pick any spot that I want and hot glue it and let that dry a little bit. It only takes a couple seconds for hot glue to dry, and then just wrap it around. I like to kind of double layer it. I don't know why, because it really doesn't make a difference. So if you want to do that, you can. And then hot glue it again at some point. And then it kind of gives it a nice finished look. And then we'll just cut this piece off, and if it needs some more hot glue to like polish it up a bit, then you can add some more. So basically, that's what it's going to look like. I know I still have to put some more dots over here, but you know, I don't want the video to be too long, so that's going to be my finished look for this one. So now you see there's the purple and the silver, which came out very nicely, and it has purple dots, and then here's the red and the cream. And you know, I don't think this candle goes with it, but you know, it'll be a candle holder, and it looks really good. So there you go. There's an idea for Christmas presents.